I try not to give wisdom or opinions unless I'm asked directly. And she said, you should never should someone. You should never say, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. I had this amazing thing and you should do it too, because everyone's coming from different experiences and different backgrounds. One thing can be really beneficial to me, it can be super detrimental to someone else. This is my story, and this is what came out of it. Do with it what you will. And if that's where, hey, you actually really like the fruit that came out of that, do it. But I'm not gonna tell you you should or shouldn't do it. One of the things that you were saying is like, yes, following the wise people, and not just the wise people, the people who will be honest with you. I think something I have really been discussing a lot with my small group is the difference between truth and honesty. And the root of honesty comes from the same root as honor. Okay. And so, whereas you can tell someone the truth, what is the difference between telling them with honor? Ooh. And how do we...
That's it. It's over. Pass the offering plate now.
But I think it's true. It's like seeking the people who are honest with you, not just truthful with you, but honest with you. And saying like, I'm noticing this. Why is it happening? How can we change it? Or how can we cultivate this to be a better thing? And I think I think we so value wisdom, and we can get wisdom from so many sources, but honesty can only come with people who know you. And I think that's one of those things where I think we can have a lot of things influencing us, but who are the people we surround ourselves with? Who are the people that when the crisis happens, who's the first people you call? Who are the people on your favorite list? And I think for me, I went through a really traumatic season where I literally had to say, who are gonna be my first calls? And I needed help. It wasn't something that I could do alone anymore. And it wasn't something that was anything based on my actions. But there was seasons in my life that followed where it was like, I need to ask this person for help because I know they're gonna be honest with me. And it's not that they're my friend I talk to every day or the person I follow on social media, but I know this person will be honest with me and I know they have wisdom and discernment. And I think that's something that, yeah, the mute button's really great for those people who are just truthful and not honest, right? And I think that's something sometimes we have to discern of. Yeah. What words are coming out of their mouth? Like, don't let anything unwholesome come out of your mouth. And like, if it's not building you up and if it's not giving you tangible things to progress forward, because I think sometimes we want to wallow in that trauma, and we need the friends who are honest and say, okay, great, we spent a moment here, we're healing here, but we can't let the wound fester. We got to clean it. We got to move forward. And I think sometimes it's those people that are really important in my life and have been important in my life, but are people that I would much rather follow them on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis or a month-to-month basis than someone across the country that I won't have contact with more than 5 times a year. Yeah. And I think that's just where I've recognized and had some really sweet conversations with my small group because we chose to be honest with each other. We chose to set that foundation of we're not gonna come into this group and not be honest and honoring each other. And if you aren't, if you just wanna speak truth or non-truth and heresy is like what you're leading your life on, then like, let's have a conversation about that, but also that's not the culture we wanna cultivate here.
So you're saying even if I tell lies, as long as I'm being honoring, that's the...
No, because there's not truth in that. No so truth. That's where the honesty comes in too, is that it's truth and honor that creates honesty in a lot of ways.
Wow. Truth and honor. I've never heard that before. That's...
I think my small group.
Wow. Someone might hear some of the stuff we're saying and be like, oh man, Sabrina and AJ, they're just they're full of it. You know, they're just these holy rollers who are trying to take away everyone's fun. Like, come on, why are you trying to put so many rules on my social media usage? Like, I'm just trying to, just do some, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I myself, I can have a tendency to come off like, hey, look, I've got all the answers to solve all your problems, so you better do exactly what I'm telling you to do or else things are gonna go bad, And I try to not do that as much as I can, but like, I don't know, like, do you think some of this stuff might feel like what's the difference between what we're saying and, just legalism? Like the person who says like, you better not, watch Pokemon or play video games, or you better not read Harry Potter or else you might, open portals to, witchcraft, or, like, what's the difference?
I had a mentor in college tell me one time that she wasn't going to let me know what wisdom she had until I ask. And that was really life-changing for me in the sense of I try not to give wisdom or opinions on things unless I'm asked directly. And so she called it, we were doing student life, we were welcoming new freshmen in. And as someone older and wiser who had gone through their freshman year, who had done all these things, who had, spent time in the city we were living, and she said, you should never should someone. You should never say, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. I had this amazing thing and you should do it too, because everyone's coming from different experiences and different backgrounds, has different strengths and weaknesses. And I think she would always say, this is my story and this is what came out of it. Do with it what you will. And if that's where, hey, you actually really like the fruit that came out of that, do it. But I'm not going to tell you should or shouldn't do it. Right. And I think that's something that one thing can be really beneficial to me. It can be super detrimental to someone else. Cutting social media for me could be hard and not good. And I would lose valuable friendships, valuable influences in my life. And yet for someone else, that's what they need to do. Yeah. And I think we have to acknowledge that it's one of those things where if you and someone else are praying over something equally, that if you're trying to make a decision between the two of you, or you're trying to find advice or wisdom between the two of you, if you're both being fervent and praying about it, I don't think it's one of those things where God is going to lead you in exact opposite directions in the sense of, like, he's not going to tell you guys polarize things if you're both praying over it for the same reason. And I think that at the end of the day, like, God will make his plan and agenda clear. And for different people, that can mean entirely different things. And I think we have this lofty idea of he's not going to speak to us in that. And yet there's power in communal prayer. There's power in seeking advice, seeking wisdom. And I think there's power in knowing that he's going to tell us what he has in mind for things, even if they're our smallest woes. I mean, he clothes the lilies. Like, what more is he doing for us? And I think we kind of have this lofty idea that we're always going to have these, like, life-changing experiences. Most of the time, like, your small day-to-day actions can be reversed. Like, if you do it wrong, you can go back and say, I did it wrong. That was a learning curve. Like, I learned the wrong way. Let's go back and restart. I think most of the time we don't feel like we can restart things, and yet a lot of things in life we actually can. And we have the power to try things. Yeah.
And this is just the way that our stories have happened to play out.
Yeah. And your story is very different than my story. And I think that's been what's cool about our friendship, is that we get to come at things from a very different perspective. And yet a lot of what we do in ministry is similar. And yet what's worked for you won't work for me. And I know that, and like vice versa. And yet we can find wisdom from each other in situations where one of us has had more answers than the other. And say, like, yes, no, maybe, I don't know, we'll see what works, And I think that's what's cool about community and being a part of, especially like a young adult community, is that you have people in a similar life stage that have different experiences and different perspectives that you can gain that wisdom from as well.